The crystal spires of the Galactic Council gleamed under the artificial suns of Station Prime, their surfaces reflecting the worried faces of beings from across the known galaxy. Ambassador Sci-Fi of the Crystalline Collective adjusted his translucent form, light refracting through his body in patterns that betrayed his deep unease. Around the circular chamber, representatives from dozens of elder races sat in tense silence. The humans, Sci-Fi began, his voice resonating like wind chimes in a storm, have requested membership in our council. A ripple of concern passed through the assembly. The Vorthak delegation, ancient beings who resembled walking trees with silver bark, rustled their leaves in distress. The aquatic hydros bubbled nervously in their environmental suits. Even the machine-like Nexus units, typically emotionless, flickered their optical sensors in what could only be described as anxiety. "Impossible," declared Matriarch Kalara of the Feline Dominion, her scaled head swaying on her serpentine neck. "They are too young, too primitive. Their species has barely left their birth world." But it was High Counselor Thurin of the Arachnid Assembly who spoke the words that chilled them all. "We've received their initial cultural documentation. What we've discovered, it defies all logic of civilized evolution." The holographic display activated, showing images from Earth. The assembled beings watched in growing horror as scenes unfolded before them. Humans walking alongside massive four-legged creatures with razor-sharp teeth and powerful jaws. Creatures that could clearly tear a human apart without effort. "These are apex predators," Thurin continued, his 8 eyes fixed on the display. "Killing machines evolved over millions of years, and the humans, they live with them, voluntarily." The chamber erupted in chaos. Delegates from species that had evolved as prey animals cowered behind their protective barriers. Even the predator races looked disturbed. "Surely this is some kind of mistake," whispered Ambassador Yill of the Peaceful Herbivore Alliance, his rabbit-like ears twitching frantically. "No sentient species would willingly cohabitate with natural predators." Sci-Fi raised a crystalline appendage for silence. "There's more. Our preliminary scout reports indicate that humans don't just live with these creatures. They show them affection. They call them good boys and good girls." The silence that followed was deafening. Counselor Vrax of the warrior clans, a being who had never shown fear in battle, stood slowly. His armored carapace gleamed under the chamber lights. "Are we to understand that these humans have somehow domesticated their world's apex predators?" "Not just domesticated," Thurin replied grimly. "They've made them into companions, emotional support animals. Some humans even dress them in decorative clothing." Several delegates fainted. Matriarch Kalara's voice was barely a whisper. What manner of species could accomplish such a thing? What kind of beings could look at a natural killing machine and see a pet? Before anyone could answer, the chamber's communication system chimed. The voice that followed was cheerful, speaking in the universal trade language with a peculiar accent that none of them recognized. "Hello there. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earthship Lucky Star. We're requesting permission to dock at Station Prime. We've brought some cultural exchange gifts and, oh, I hope you don't mind. I brought my dog Max along. He's such a good boy and he gets lonely when I'm away on long missions." Every being in the chamber turned to stare at the communication panel. Somewhere out there, approaching their station, was a human who had voluntarily brought an apex predator with them, as if it were the most natural thing in the galaxy. Sci-Fi's crystalline form flickered with nervous energy. What do we do?" The question hung in the air like a death sentence. Chapter 2. The Impossible Truth Station. Prime's docking bay had never seen such preparation. Security teams from 12 different species stood at the ready, their weapons powered but not drawn. Medical teams waited on standby with anti-venom, healing rays, and resurrection chambers. The entire station had been placed on high alert. Captain Sarah Chen stepped off her ship with a spring in her step, completely oblivious to the terror she was causing. She was young by human standards, perhaps 30 Earth years, with dark hair pulled back in a practical ponytail and eyes that sparkled with curiosity. She wore a simple blue uniform with patches indicating her rank and homeworld. But it wasn't Sarah who commanded attention. At her side walked a creature that made every security officer's blood run cold. It stood nearly as tall as Sarah's waist, its body covered in golden fur that gleamed under the station's lights. Its head was massive, with powerful jaws that could easily crush bone, and its eyes, intelligent, alert eyes, scanned the docking bay with interest. "Max, stay close," Sarah said cheerfully, her hand resting casually on the creature's head. The beast, this apex predator that should have been humanity's natural enemy, wagged its tail and looked up at her with what could only be described as adoration. The security teams raised their weapons. "Wait," Ambassador Sci-Fi's voice echoed through the bay as he approached, his crystalline form refracting the light into prismatic rainbows. "Captain Chen, welcome to Station Prime. I am Ambassador Sci-Fi of the Crystalline Collective." Sarah smiled brightly and extended her hand, a gesture that made several guards flinch as her hand moved perilously close to the predator's mouth. "Pleased to meet you. And this is Max. He's a golden retriever." The word retriever sent a chill through the assembled crowd. A hunter. A creature bred for hunting. Max, oblivious to the fear he was causing, sat down and began panting happily, his tongue lolling out in what humans apparently found endearing, but what looked to the aliens like a display of weaponry. "Captain," Sci-Fi said carefully, "we need to discuss your companion. Our preliminary cultural assessment suggests that this creature is a natural predator of your species." Sarah looked down at Max, then back at Sci-Fi, her expression genuinely confused. "Max? Oh no, you've got it all wrong. He's the sweetest thing in the galaxy. He wouldn't hurt a fly. Well, except for that one time he caught a squirrel, but that was more about instinct than malice." The words, "caught a squirrel," caused 3 more security officers to raise their weapons. "Show them, Max," Sarah said excitedly. "Show them your trick." The assembled beings watched in horror as the apex predator responded to the human's command. Max laid down, rolled over, and then sat up on his hind legs, balancing perfectly while moving his front paws in a begging motion. The silence was absolute. "Good boy," Sarah exclaimed, producing a small brown object from her pocket. "Who wants a treat?" Max's tail began wagging so hard it created a small wind disturbance in the docking bay. Counselor Vrax of the warrior clans stepped forward, his battle-scarred carapace gleaming. "Captain Chen, we must ask, how is this possible? How have your people managed to make allies of such creatures?" "Allies?" Sarah laughed, the sound echoing off the bay walls. "Oh, they're not just allies. They're family. Humans have been living with dogs for over 15,000 years. They're our best friends, our companions, our partners in everything from hunting to therapy to just keeping us company on lonely nights." She scratched behind Max's ears, and the massive predator leaned into her touch with obvious pleasure. "Dogs have saved human lives, helped us explore the world, worked alongside us, played with our children. They're not just pets. They're part of who we are as a species." High Counselor Thurin approached cautiously, his 8 eyes never leaving. "Max, but it's an apex predator. Surely there must be containment protocols, safety measures, training from birth to suppress its natural instincts." "Training?" Sarah tilted her head. "Well, sure. Max knows basic commands like sit, stay, come, and fetch. But suppressing instincts? Why would we want to do that? His instincts are what make him amazing. His loyalty, his protective nature, his ability to sense when I'm sad and need comfort. Those are all natural dog behaviors that we've channeled into partnership." As if to demonstrate, Max suddenly perked up, his ears swiveling toward a corridor entrance. A moment later, a maintenance worker rounded the corner carrying tools. Max's tail wagged in greeting to the new arrival. "See?" Sarah said proudly. "He can sense people approaching before our instruments can. Dogs have incredible senses: hearing, smell, intuition about people's emotions. They're not just predators. They're partners." Matriarch Kalara slithered closer, her serpentine form coiling with tension. "Captain, you mentioned children. Surely you don't allow these creatures near your young." Sarah's eyes lit up. "Oh, Max loves kids. Dogs are natural protectors of human children. There are countless stories of dogs risking their lives to save kids from danger. Some breeds are specifically known for being gentle with babies. She pulled out a small device, what appeared to be a communication tablet, and showed them images. Tiny human children sleeping peacefully next to massive, furry predators. Children riding on the backs of even larger specimens. Toddlers pulling on ears and tails while the creatures endured it with patient, loving expressions. The assembled delegates stared at the images in stunned silence. But the most amazing thing, Sarah continued, oblivious to their shock, is that dogs chose us too. They didn't have to stay with humans. Over thousands of years of evolution, they could have gone back to being wild. But they stayed. They chose partnership with humans over freedom in the wild. Ambassador Yill of the Peaceful Herbivore Alliance stepped forward tentatively. Captain, if I may ask, what do these creatures eat? Oh, Max has a great diet. High-quality kibble, some fruits and vegetables, the occasional piece of chicken or beef. He's got a sensitive stomach, so I have to be careful about treats. The word chicken caused several herbivore delegates to clutch their protective charms. You feed them other creatures? Yill's voice was barely a whisper. Well, dogs are omnivores, but they do need protein. It's just part of their natural diet. Max gets meat, but it's processed, prepared food. He's not hunting for survival anymore. He's got humans to take care of that. Zeph-High's crystalline form dimmed with confusion. So, these predators have given up hunting in exchange for companionship? Exactly, Sarah beamed. It's the most incredible partnership in the galaxy. Humans provide food, shelter, medical care, and love. Dogs provide protection, companionship, emotional support, and unconditional loyalty. It's a relationship built on mutual benefit and genuine affection. She knelt down beside Max, who immediately nuzzled against her. Isn't that right, boy? You love your humans, don't you? Max's response was to lick Sarah's face with enthusiasm, his tail wagging so hard his entire rear end wiggled. The alien delegates watched this display of affection between predator and prey with a mixture of fascination and terror. Captain Chen, Counselor Vrack said slowly, if your species has accomplished this with one type of predator, are there others? Sarah's smile could have powered a small space station. Oh, you have no idea. Wait until you meet the cats. Remember Chapter 3, The Revelation. The emergency session of the Galactic Council had been called within hours of Captain Chen's arrival. The great circular chamber buzzed with nervous energy as delegates from across the galaxy struggled to process what they had witnessed. The implications are staggering, High Counselor Thurin announced, his 8 eyes scanning the assembled crowd. If humans have truly domesticated apex predators, what does this say about their capabilities as a species? Matriarch Kalara coiled herself more tightly in her chair. We need to understand their methodology. Is it genetic manipulation? Psychic control? Some form of advanced technology we haven't detected? No, came a voice from the chamber entrance. Captain Sarah Chen strode in confidently with Max trotting beside her. The security escort that had accompanied her looked distinctly uncomfortable. It's much simpler than that. She approached the center of the chamber while Max sat obediently at her side, his tail still wagging as he observed the various alien species with friendly curiosity. You want to know how humanity domesticated dogs? Sarah asked, looking around at the assembled delegates. The answer is, we didn't. Not really. It was a mutual choice that happened gradually over thousands of years. Ambassador Zeph-High's leaned forward, his crystalline form refracting light nervously. Explain. Ancient humans and early dogs, which were really just wolves back then, discovered they could help each other. Humans were good at making tools and understanding strategy. Wolves were good at hunting and detecting danger, so they started cooperating. She gestured to Max, who had begun to doze peacefully despite being surrounded by dozens of alien species. Over generations, the wolves that were more friendly to humans had better survival rates. They got consistent food, protection from other predators, and help raising their young. The humans who were better at working with wolves also survived. Better, they had early warning systems, hunting partners, and companions. Counselor Vrax shifted his armored bulk. So it was evolutionary pressure. Partly, Sarah nodded. But it was also emotional. The wolves that could form emotional bonds with humans thrived, and humans who could form emotional bonds with wolves also thrived. Over time, this created dogs, still predators, still powerful, but wired for partnership with humans. High Counselor Thurin clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. And you said, there were cats? Sarah's grin was almost predatory itself. Oh yes, cats are fascinating. They're smaller than dogs but arguably more efficient hunters. And they domesticated themselves. Explain, Matriarch Kalara hissed. Humans developed agriculture and started storing grain. Grain storage attracted rodents. Cats hunted the rodents. Humans realized cats were solving their pest problem, so they started encouraging cats to stay around. Unlike dogs, cats maintained their independence while choosing to live with humans. She pulled out her communication device again, showing images of small furry predators with sharp claws and fangs. But these weren't menacing images. They showed the creatures curled up sleeping on human furniture, playing with human children, or sitting in sunny windows. Cats hunt for sport, not just survival. They're incredible predators, fast, agile, with razor-sharp reflexes. But they also purr when they're content, seek out human attention, and often sleep in the same beds as their humans. Several delegates made sounds of distress. You sleep with predators? Ambassador Yill squeaked. Not just sleep with them, Sarah laughed. Many humans consider their pets to be family members. We talk to them, celebrate their birthdays, grieve when they die, and make major life decisions based on their well-being. She looked around the chamber at the sea of confused, frightened faces. I think you're all missing the point. The question isn't how humans domesticated predators. The question is, what kind of species were we that predators wanted to be domesticated by us? The chamber fell silent. Think about it, Sarah continued. Wolves and cats didn't have to choose partnership with humans. They could have remained wild, free, independent. But they chose to link their evolutionary future with ours. They chose to trust us with their lives, their young, their genetic destiny. Max, as if sensing the importance of the moment, stood up and placed his head on Sarah's hand. She scratched behind his ears absent-mindedly. Dogs and cats see something in humans that makes them want to be part of our pack, our family. They see us as worthy partners, protectors, providers, and in return, they give us loyalty that's stronger than blood, love that's unconditional, and protection that they'll die to provide. Zephai's crystalline form pulsed with confused light. But why? What evolutionary advantage does loyalty provide to a predator? Because, Sarah said softly, the most successful predators aren't always the strongest or the fastest. Sometimes, they're the ones smart enough to choose the right partners. She looked around the chamber again. Humans didn't just domesticate dogs and cats. We formed a three-species alliance that conquered an entire planet. Dogs helped us hunt and provided security. Cats protected our food stores and kept our living spaces free of pests. Humans provided tools, shelter, and medical care for all three species. The realization was dawning on the alien delegates. If humans had formed successful evolutionary partnerships with their planet's apex predators, what did that say about humanity's potential as allies or enemies? Captain Chen, Counselor, Vrax said carefully, are there other species in this alliance? Sarah's smile widened. Oh, you haven't heard about horses yet, or dolphins, or the birds of prey, or... The emergency klaxon suddenly blared through the chamber, cutting her off. A communication officer rushed in, his face pale with panic. Counselors, he gasped. Long-range sensors have detected a massive fleet approaching the station. Unknown configuration, but the energy signatures. They're unlike anything we've ever seen. Sarah frowned and checked her own communication device. That's strange. I wasn't expecting any other Earthships for another few days. She looked up. At the assembled delegates, her expression suddenly serious. Unless... Oh no. What? Sci-Fi demanded. What is it? I may have forgotten to mention something in my cultural briefing, Sarah said slowly. When I said humans domesticated apex predators, I might have undersold the scale of the operation. The chamber erupted in panicked voices, but Sarah's next words cut through the chaos like a blade. I should probably warn you, my species doesn't just keep predators as pets. We also domesticated ourselves. The viewports of Station Prime revealed a sight that defied comprehension. The approaching fleet wasn't arranged in the neat military formations that the Galactic Council recognized. Instead, the ships moved in a pattern that seemed chaotic at first glance but held an underlying structure that spoke of pack behavior, a hunting formation. Captain Sarah Chen stood in the observation deck with the hastily assembled council delegates, Max sitting calmly beside her as she watched the approaching vessels. The largest ship was massive, easily dwarfing anything in the council's fleet, but it was flanked by dozens of smaller, faster vessels that darted around it like protective escorts. Captain, Ambassador Sci-Fi's voice cracked with tension. Those ships, they're not broadcasting any identification codes. Sarah checked her communication device and winced. Oh no. That's the UES pack leader, Admiral Rebecca Morrison's flagship. Admiral. High Counselor Thurin clicked his mandibles nervously. This is military? Not exactly, Sarah said, then paused. Well, sort of. It's complicated. The communication system chimed and a new voice filled the observation deck, older than Sarah's, with an authority that made several delegates instinctively step back. Station Prime, this is Admiral Morrison of the United Earthship pack leader. We're responding to a distress signal from Captain Chen's vessel. Sarah grabbed her communicator. Rebecca, there's no distress. I'm fine. This is just a diplomatic meeting with the Galactic Council. Sarah. The Admiral's voice carried a note of concern that sent chills through the alien delegates. Your ship's transponder has been silent for over 6 hours, and our long-range sensors detect multiple weapons signatures pointed at your location. Council delegates looked at each other nervously. They had, in fact, surrounded the human ship with defensive emplacements, standard protocol for unknown vessels carrying dangerous cargo. They're just being cautious, Sarah explained. I brought Max, and they're not used to— You brought Max into a potentially hostile situation without backup? The Admiral's voice rose. Sarah, you're part of our pack. Rule number 1. Pack. Members don't face danger alone. Counselor Vrax stepped forward. Admiral Morrison, this is Counselor Vrax of the warrior clans. There is no hostility here. We are simply cautious regarding your species' unusual relationship with predatory creatures. The silence that followed was deafening. Ah, Admiral Morrison said finally. I see. Council members, this is going to require a face-to-face meeting, requesting permission to dock. Admiral, Sci-Fi interjected, how many vessels are in your fleet? 47 ships, approximately 12,000 personnel, and— There was a pause. About 3,000 accompanying pets. The observation deck erupted in chaos. 3,000 predators? Matriarch Kalara shrieked. Admiral, Sarah said. Quickly. Maybe we should clarify what you mean by pets. Well, there's Captain Rodriguez's cat colony. About 400 cats total. Lieutenant Commander Zhang brought his rescue dog pack. That's another 150. The Therapy Animal Division has about 200 dogs and 50 cats. The Working Animal Corps has the search and rescue teams, the detection animals, the service animals, and then there are the personal pets that crew members couldn't bear to leave behind. High Counselor Thurin was making a sound like air escaping from a punctured hull. You brought an invasion force of apex predators to a diplomatic meeting? Invasion force? Admiral Morrison's voice carried a note of amusement. Council members, I think there's been a misunderstanding. These aren't weapons. They're family. Within the hour, Admiral Rebecca Morrison strode through Station Prime's corridors with a confidence that made veteran warriors step aside. She was tall, silver-haired, and carried herself with the bearing of someone accustomed to command. But what drew every eye was her companion. The creature walking beside her was enormous, easily twice the size of Max, with a thick coat of black and tan fur and a massive head that spoke of incredible jaw strength. Its eyes were intelligent and alert, scanning the corridors with the practiced ease of a professional bodyguard. "This is Bear," Admiral Morrison announced as she entered the council chamber. "He's a Rottweiler German Shepherd mix. Rescued him from a shelter when he was just a puppy." Bear, as if understanding the introduction, sat beside the Admiral and surveyed the assembled aliens with calm interest. His tail gave a single dignified wag. "Admiral," Sci-Fi said weakly, "that creature is substantial. Bear's a big boy, but he's gentle as a lamb with children, aren't you, Bear?" The Admiral scratched behind the enormous dog's ears, and Bear's tail began wagging more enthusiastically, his tongue hanging out in a doggy grin. "But Admiral," Counselor Vrack said, "Captain Chen mentioned something about humans domesticating themselves. What did she mean?" Admiral Morrison's expression grew serious. "Ah, that." She looked around the chamber at the assembled delegates. "Captain Chen, did you explain pack behavior to them?" "I was getting to that when you arrived," Sarah said. "Pack behavior?" Thurin clicked his mandibles nervously. "Humans are social creatures," Admiral Morrison explained. "Like wolves, we evolved in groups. We're wired for cooperation, loyalty, and mutual protection. When humans started forming partnerships with dogs, we didn't just domesticate them. We integrated pack behavior into our own social structure." She gestured to Bear, who was now lying down with his head resting on her feet. "Dogs taught humans about unconditional loyalty, about protecting the pack even at the cost of individual comfort. Humans taught dogs about long-term planning and tool use. Together, we created something new, interspecies packs." "But what does this mean practically?" Matriarch Kalara asked. Admiral Morrison's smile was sharp. "It means that when one of our pack is threatened, the entire pack responds. Sarah is part of our pack. When we detected potential threats to her safety, every human in this fleet immediately shifted into protective mode." "Protective mode?" Ambassador Yill squeaked. "Humans will do anything to protect their packmates," Morrison said simply. "We'll travel across galaxies, face impossible odds, sacrifice ourselves if necessary. It's not strategy, it's instinct. Dogs taught us that love isn't a weakness. It's the foundation of true strength." As if to demonstrate, Bear suddenly raised his head, alert. A moment later, Max trotted into the chamber, having apparently broken free from his designated waiting area. Instead of territorial aggression between the two predators, Bear's tail began wagging, and Max approached with playbow posture. The alien delegates watched in amazement as the two apex predators began playing together, their fight consisting of gentle wrestling and mock chasing that was clearly play behavior. "This is what we mean by domestication," Sarah said softly. "It's not about control or dominance, it's about family. Dogs see us as their pack and we see them as ours. We've learned to communicate across species lines, to care for each other, to play together." "But the implications," Sci-Fi said, his crystalline form pulsing with confused light. "If humans can form these bonds with apex predators, what does that mean for their interactions with other sentient species?" Admiral Morrison and Captain Chen exchanged a look. "That," Admiral Morrison said, "is what we're here to find out. Humans are looking for a larger pack. We want to explore the galaxy, meet new species, form new alliances. We're hoping the Galactic Council might be interested in becoming part of our extended pack. But," Sarah added with a grin, "fair warning, if you become part of our pack, we'll protect you the same way we protect each other. And trust me, you've never seen anything like a human protecting their family." The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity wasn't just asking to join the Galactic Council. They were offering something unprecedented. A partnership, built on the kind of loyalty that had convinced apex predators to abandon their independence and choose cooperation instead. The question was, were the elder races brave enough to accept? 6 months later, Station Prime looked very different. The sterile corridors now echoed with sounds that would have terrified the original inhabitants. The click of claws on metal floors, the soft padding of paws, and the occasional bark or meow echoing through the ventilation systems. Ambassador Sci-Fi had grown accustomed to the small furry creature that had taken up residence in his quarters. The cat, a rescued tabby named Luna, had somehow determined that his crystalline form provided the perfect warming surface for afternoon naps. Despite his initial terror, Sci-Fi found Luna's purring to be remarkably soothing during stressful negotiations. The humans were right, he admitted to High Counselor Thurin as they walked through the station's new recreational area. Around them, beings from dozens of species sat in comfortable groupings, many with earth animals nearby. A Vorthak sapling was carefully petting a golden retriever while its parent watched nervously. A group of young hydros had discovered that cats were excellent at helping them practice their coordination outside of water. About what specifically? Thurin asked, though his attention was focused on the small kitten that had decided to investigate his leg joints with typical feline curiosity. About pack behavior, Sci-Fi replied. Look around. These animals haven't just integrated into the station. They've created connections between species that formal diplomacy never achieved. It was true. The introduction of Earth animals had broken down barriers that centuries of careful political maneuvering had failed to address. Herbivore species who had been afraid to interact with natural predators found themselves bonding with creatures that hunted but chose not to hunt them. Predator species discovered the joy of interacting with beings that didn't fear them, but still respected their nature. Captain Sarah Chen approached with Max at her side, both looking pleased with their morning walk through the station's expanded green spaces. How's the integration going? She asked. Better than expected, Thurin admitted. Though I still don't understand how you convinced Ambassador Yill to adopt that. What did you call it? A rabbit, Sarah grinned. Specifically a Holland Lop, named Buttercup, and I didn't convince him of anything. Buttercup chose him. They watched as Ambassador Yill, who had spent his entire life afraid of predators, sat peacefully in the garden area while a small, fluffy rabbit grazed nearby. The sight of a prey species from Earth coexisting peacefully with a prey species from another world had somehow provided comfort to many of the station's more nervous inhabitants. The council vote is tomorrow, Sci-Fi said. Are you nervous? Sarah scratched Max behind the ears. Not really. Win or lose, we've already accomplished something important here. Which is? We've proven that cooperation between different species isn't just possible, it's natural. Earth animals didn't bond with you because we forced them to. They did it because they recognized something in you that they liked, something that said potential pack member. Admiral Morrison's voice echoed through the station's communication system. All human personnel, please report to Docking Bay 7. We have incoming visitors from the Andromeda Colony Fleet, and they're bringing their pets. Sci-Fi's crystalline form flickered with what humans had learned to recognize as amusement. More pets? Oh, you haven't met the Andromedan humans yet, Sarah said, her eyes twinkling. They specialize in aquatic partnerships. Wait until you see what they've done with dolphins and whales. Whales! Thurin's mandibles clicked in concern. Don't worry, Sarah reassured him. They're gentle giants, though you might want to upgrade your water filtration systems. Whale songs can be pretty loud. As they walked toward the docking bay, Max trotting happily beside them, Sci-Fi reflected on how much had changed. The Galactic Council had spent millennia trying to create unity through careful diplomacy, elaborate treaties, and complex political structures. Humanity had achieved it in 6 months with belly rubs and squeaky toys. The docking bay doors opened to reveal another human ship, this one designed with large aquatic compartments visible through transparent aluminum viewing ports. Swimming alongside the ship, in specially designed spacesuits that allowed them to move freely, were creatures that defied description. Massive, graceful beings that moved through the cosmic void as easily as they had once moved through Earth's oceans. Friends, Sarah said simply, watching the whales swim in formation around the ship. The biggest pack members we've ever had. As the human delegation prepared to disembark, Admiral Morrison's voice came through the communicators again. Station Prime Control, be advised. We're also carrying a delegation from the Mars colony. They specialize in bird partnerships and, well, just be prepared for some interesting flying patterns in the docking bay. Sci-Fi looked at Sarah. Your species really did domesticate everything, didn't you? Sarah's grin was pure mischief. Not everything. We're still working on convincing cats that they're actually domesticated. From somewhere in the station, a cat yowled indignantly, as if it had heard the comment and wanted to register its protest at being considered anything less than the independent predator it had always been. The sound echoed through the corridors, followed by the gentle laughter of dozens of species who had learned in the past 6 months that sometimes the best diplomacy wasn't found in treaties or negotiations. Sometimes it was found in the simple act of scratching behind someone's ears and saying, "Good boy." The Galactic Council's vote was unanimous. Humanity was welcomed into the galactic community not as conquerors or supplicants, but as the species that had taught the galaxy's oldest civilizations a simple truth. The strongest packs are built on love, not fear. And love, as it turned out, was the one thing that translated perfectly across all species barriers, even if it sometimes came with kibble and the occasional chewed shoe. End of story.